Hey guys, it's Doc from the Gold Hog. And you have to excuse me because I've actually got some notes that I'm actually working on for this video too. This was a real extensive test of the monster hog that we did. We've done several of these tests before. I think there are 3 or 4 of them. But I wanted to do one more test, and this was sort of like the ultimate challenge, the ultimate test for this unit. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to create certain situations and do certain things. I've got hours and hours of footage on this thing, and we even went to the plant. I had to go to the commercial plant and work with them for a little while, but I'm going to try and compress this down into maybe 15 minutes. So I can't get all the information and everything in here. I can't put all the hours of testing and working materials and measuring. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and try and outline what we did on this test, and try and condense it down a little bit. So this has been in the works for about 4 weeks. Or longer. I've been planning this. In our other tests, if you've seen our other tests, we're running real high capture rates. We're above 98% on this thing always. And I wanted to try and get it more of a loss because I'm consistently running 99%. So I wanted to try and push this thing. I wanted to make it lose gold. That's been my challenge up to this point. But everything had to come together right. In other words, the unit just finished getting all the production pieces in. We got a new type of mat that you'll hear me talking about that we're experimenting with. And this mat we've been working on for about 6 months, and it's a specialty mat. It's not for every application because this mat, which is called Bedrock, actually is a very high speed mat. You have to have high water speed for this mat for it to work right. So I'll go over that a little bit too. There really was 3 things involved with this, but I really wanted to replicate field conditions. And how do you replicate field conditions? Now, the material we're running is not bank material. It's not gravels. It's excavated soil in Georgia, and it's extremely clay laden. I mean, there are clay balls the size of human heads in this thing. And I would say every single scoop, anyone that's ever been out to this place and worked this material will tell you, that pile is just solid clay. Horrible. It's full of pyrite, and I'll show you some of the pyrite, and you've seen some of the pyrite. But also, it's full of gems. It's full of rubies. It's full of emeralds. It's full of hematite, magnetite. It's full of all kinds of heavy stuff. So it's a great test for this. Plus, since it's excavated material from almost 35 feet down, ancient riverbeds, it's full of just mud and muck. There's a lot of silt, there's a lot of mud, and it almost looks like soil that you dig from the garden. So when you run this stuff, your slurry turns into this chocolate milkshake, which is a real hard test. When I wanted to replicate the field conditions for this test, the one thing I didn't want to do is I didn't want to run washed soil. In other words, I just didn't want to take gravels or sands and just use clean wash. I wanted real hardcore nasty dirt. So there's a certain way, there's really only one way that you can do that test. The next thing about this is I wanted to do it at real high volume. We didn't feed the machine, we didn't feed the monster hog to its ultimate. It really can run 6 to 8 tons an hour. The rate we were running at, and I calculated it somewhere, it was just under 4 tons an hour. And that's going to come into my mining math situation. The next thing I wanted to do is I didn't want to do a weight count. In other words, I didn't want to just do a calculation based on weight. Because the difference is when you get down to really fine gold, you can lose a ton of fine gold in 100 and 200 range, and it really won't impact your gold losses percentage-wise if you have larger gold mixed in with that. So I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to do a piece count, and I wanted to do a weight count. And to accomplish that, it took almost a week and a half to set this up. So I'm going to go over that real quick too. All right, so now I left a little black up here, so I might be putting up some numbers here, but because this gets a little confusing of how we had to calculate this out, and this was not easy. What we did is I had a vial, and it was 12.9 grams of gold that mainly is from Georgia. But I didn't end up using all that. I only ended up using probably just over half of that. Because I wanted to use some of that gold to seed into the commercial operation because we were testing new mats. So I only used maybe 6 or 7 grams of it in this test. So we had raw gold, and it was all it was all 16th inch or smaller gold, down to 200s. Matter of fact, no, I don't have that vial, but I'll probably put up a picture of it where I had it in a vial. But it's the piece count on this one vial, it's probably close to 10,000 pieces of gold. And if you've ever seen me count gold before, you'll understand how much gold there is in just one grain of gold. The next thing is concentrates. I wanted to bring in concentrates that were extremely hard to test, and we finally found it. And they're from northern Canada. It's a commercial operation, and this gold is the flattest gold I've ever seen, and I mean flat. It's full of 100s, 200s, 300s, and even 400s. I mean, the stuff is just full of it, and you can't even tap it in a pan. You put this gold in a pan, and I'll maybe show you a clip of that here, but when you tap it on the side, the gold doesn't move. I mean, it literally does not move. You have gold sitting in that pan, and you're sitting there tapping it, and it will not move up to the side. It's crazy. But this stuff, let me explain how these concentrates, because this is probably the most important part, how we came to these numbers. I had 9.6 pounds of this stuff. And we took a big heaping tablespoon, put it in a cup and weighed it, and it was 35 grams. 35 grams of concentrates. In each one of those 35 grams, there was 320 colors on average. So we went and did this 3 times. And I'll put up a picture right now. You can see where what I've done is I've taken a pan and actually used pencil marks to count 100s and 200s and go down and actually physically count this stupid stuff. It was crazy. So that equals about 9 colors per gram of concentrates is what we calculated. Now we've got 9.6 pounds at 454, whatever it is, 454, 456 grams in a pound. So that gave us 4,348 grams of this concentrate mix. If you multiply that out, 48 times 9 equals 39,132. So I got 39,000 pieces of gold in that one thing. In the vial, there's probably about 10,000 pieces. So, I mean, plus we're also running natural material, which has a little bit of gold in it too. I would guess somewhere maybe 1,000 or 2,000 pieces of really fine gold. You put that all together, and it's close to 50,000 pieces of gold that we're going to be running through our sluice system. So that's how we came up with a number of 50,000 pieces. So the reason why I'm explaining that to you is if I told you that I was running a test and I had 500 pieces of gold in my tailings, you'd say that's horrible. Well, if I told you that I ran 50,000 pieces of gold, what's 1%? A 1% loss is 500 pieces. So understand that. We're talking about high volume run. So that's how we came up with these numbers. The other thing is we can't do this by weight. We can't take, if you're going to do real field running conditions, I can't take 10 grams of gold, put 10 grams of gold into this dirt and feed it in, because there's going to be losses. Every time someone puts a shovel in and knocks it on the side of the header box, there's a loss. Every time you empty a bucket out, there's gold still in the bucket. You just don't, there are too many variables in that not to be precise. So that's why the test that we're doing is, what went through that sluice? The amount of gold that went through that sluice, what was captured by the mat versus what was in the tailings. Now, I'll explain real quickly because I do it in the video too. What we did we ran about half a ton of material, which is about 12 buckets for us. Half a ton of material. We ran it through and we captured 100% of our tailings. 100%. So we had people down there manning a bucket, big tub, capturing 100%. We took 100% of those tailings, and then we screened those down to 1/8 of an inch, and we ran them all through the gold cube. Properly set up, leveled, everything was perfect on that test. And then I didn't do anything else. We brought these back home and we brought them into controlled conditions to where we could test that. So that's what we're doing. We're testing 100% of our tailings for total losses, both on piece count and on weight, as compared to what is actually captured in the mat system or the sluice system. Okay, now my last point about gold, and when you're running these kind of tests, you really need to balance your test to the point where you have a lot of fine gold. And that's why we're doing a piece count, not just a weight count. Let me give you an example. This weighs 5.3 grams, okay? Here's 5.3 grams. And guess what? There's 3 nuggets. So if I have 3 nuggets that weigh 5.3 grams and I throw this into the test, what's going to skew, what's going to change on my percentages? Well, this is going to change the percentage because these are easy to catch. It's going to change that percentage way off. And here's what we did. We actually included this into our test because I wanted to prove a point of that reverse riffle section. But when it came time for piece count and for weight, I removed these 3 pieces. These 3 pieces did not come into play. The next rule of thumb I did is I didn't count any gold that was larger than 1/8 of an inch on our actual capture rate. So everything that went, I actually ran it all through the gold cube, screened all the cons to 1/8 of an inch, ran them through the gold cube. So nothing larger than 1/8 of an inch was counted in the recovery part. I think any larger gold in there skews the percentage, so you got to throw that out. So again, these 3 large nuggets, they're actually from Alaska. Here's a real beaut. I'll show you that one. But that's a real pretty nugget there. We put them in the sluice, and I'm going to show you when we're running. It's really cool because when we're running, it actually drops in and you'll see it, and it never made it out of the reverse ripple, the reverse riffle area that we have at the top. Matter of fact, almost all the large gold we found was sitting and never even made it into the sluice. The rest of the sluice was really just a fine gold processing center. All the large gold was actually down behind, was in that one first top section. So how are we going to do this test? Real quickly, we're going to do it 2 ways. Number 1, we're going to do a weight count, and then we're going to also do a number count. There's only one way to do under real field conditions, and you have to take in a bunch of different variables that come with this. I want to run real dirt. In other words, I don't want to run sand. I don't want to run clean gravel. I want to run real dirt. And the dirt we have here we're running today is probably about 40% clay. It's just nasty stuff. Huge amount of black sand, huge amount of pyrite, huge amount of gemstones, rubies, amethysts, garnets, tons of that stuff in here. But I know that there's a little bit of gold in there, so I can't add gold to this dirt, real dirt, and run it and get an accurate test. In other words, I can't say 10 grams, how much do I have? So the way that you have to do an accurate field test when you're simulating real field conditions is you have to spike your gold, you have to seed your real dirt, run it through your machine, and then you do a measurement. And the measurement you're looking for is the percentage of loss based on what is sitting in my mats or what's sitting in my system versus what's in the tailings. And the only way to do that is to collect 100% of the tailings, okay? So we're going to be down there, we're going to be collecting 100% of the tailings. We're going to run maybe half a ton of material. It should only take us about 20 minutes. We're going to collect 100% of these tailings in the tub down there. Then we're going to take those tailings and we're going to screen those tailings down to 1/8 of an inch. Then we're going to run all those tailings to the gold cube. Then I'm going to take all that stuff back to our lab, our mini lab, and we're going to figure out what we've got. But I'm going to be checking for 2 things. The first thing I'm going to be checking for is I'm going to do weight count. So in other words, how much gold did I pull out of the machine versus what was in the tailings, and that'll give me a percentage. The next thing I'm going to do is a piece count. I know that I've got approximately 49,000, that's my known. My unknown is the additional gold that's in the pile, so I'm not going to add that in. So believe it or not, a 1% loss would be about 500 pieces of gold in my tailings of that fine stuff. People say 500 pieces in your tailings. If you're running 50,000, 1% loss is 500 if you're going by piece count. That's the important test to do. But the weight count is also important. So I honestly believe I'm going to have significant losses. My goal is to run a 97% or above. If I run 97% or above today, I'll be thrilled. That'll be a good test. With this gold that's so fine and so flat, with this heavy clay material, if I can run 97% as quickly as I'm running this stuff, that's the key component. As quickly as I'm running this stuff, that'll be a wonderful test for me. So we're going to do that. Okay guys, so let me show you what we're doing here real quick. Hold up, Rick. We're taking this is just absolutely nasty clay material. Again, it's just full of iron, pyrite, gems, everything. It's just nasty stuff. Now, this is excavated from old ancient river areas down there. So we're going to put in scoop by scoop. And what I'm doing is just taking a handful and I'll put a sprinkle in. Go ahead. We'll scoop it, I'll put a sprinkle in, and we'll just keep doing that. And every once in a while, stop. I'll take a little bit of this gold and sprinkle it in. All right, go ahead. So as we go through this, I'm just seeding it in here. Go ahead. All right, that's good. All right, let's get this one out of here and get another one in. So that's what we're doing. We're taking this and we're seeding this slowly into this material, trying to get a little more even distribution here. Keep it off the bottom of the buckets too, but so anyways, that's what we're doing. This is how we're making these buckets up. Okay guys, so real quick, let me tell you this. We're about to start and I want to walk you through this. We went ahead and we seeded all that material in. We've got about 12 buckets. It's just under half a ton is what we estimate. Each one of these buckets is probably somewhere around 45 pounds. So it's just under half a ton of material. And we're gonna run it medium speed. I'm not gonna blaze through it on this test, obviously. Got a lot of gold in here. But we're gonna run it through at a pretty quick speed. But I wanted to show you beforehand, I wanna walk over and show you the mat setup real quick. So you can see we've got the buckets all stacked here. I am gonna check and see if I have any losses over on this end too. But there's that new reverse ramp riffle that we've got in here, with a little bit of our hog moss. Then it comes down, and here is the sort of unveiling. After this section right here, we go to Razorback. Then we're going to go to the new bedrock, and this is the new bedrock mat that we're testing for the very first time in the field. Then it's going to go to scrubber, scrubber, scrubber. So I've got 3 scrubber sections. Then it's going to go to river hog. Now you can see I've got a cut down riffle here, a hole, and then a cut down. Then I'm going to go back to scrubber, scrubber, 2 bedrocks and 2 URs, because these are more finishing mats and they really like speed. So you can see the setup of this mat where the gold's got to go through this system over here, come all down, go over all this series of mats of Razorback, bedrock, scrubber, river hog, scrubber, bedrock, and UR. Now, one of the key points of this is I'm actually I'm exposing my slurry to all kinds of different variables in here, all kinds of velocities, all kinds of different exchange zones. So I'm offering the gold lots of places to hide. If it doesn't like one spot, maybe it'll find another spot. But again, this mat's gonna be running pretty hot, pretty fast. So we're getting ready to start it up and I'll show you what happens next. Okay, so we're just about ready to run. They're just about set up. We're gonna time this to see how long it takes to run half a ton, how long we're doing it. Plus we're gonna actually start the run now, so here we go. See how fast that water's running in here. Again, I've got this mat running pretty hot today. And you can see the larger rocks coming through. You'll probably see 1 inch to 1.5 inch rocks coming through on the actual fluid. And again, we're catching all this in the bucket down here. We've done this before and it really works well. So. And if we need to change out the bucket, we'll change out the bucket. Okay, so we just shut it down. We ran just under half a ton. I'm saying that's my guesstimate. Just under half a ton, and it took us 8 minutes to run just under half a ton. This is where mining math comes into play. Being able to move a lot of material efficiently, and I'll address that in a minute later. But I'm gonna go up and we'll take a look at the sluice and see what it looks like. So, one of the first things that you'll notice on this is when you get to the river hog is gonna have large rocks behind it. Because whenever you're dealing with gold recovery, you have to deal with issues of mass as well too. It's not just specific density, it's also mass. So you can see that the UR down here is pretty bare. That's pretty barren, pretty bare. The bedrock has stuff in it. Scrubber, river hog, scrubber, and then we start to get up into the bedrock up here, and I'm starting to see a lot of gold. I'm starting to see a lot of gold up in these lines up here. There's gold right in here. There's a lot of gold up in this bedrock too. Alright, so here's that reverse ramp riffle. Hold my phone, right? But you can see, look at the nuggets in here. Look at all that gold in there. But that's from the reverse ramp right in there. There's another nugget sitting over there. That's one of my 3. And let me show you right there. Look at all that gold up under there. There's a ton. Any of this large gold is getting caught up in here, right in that trap. You can see it. There's another big piece over here that I put in. So those are my 3 knowns. 1, 2, and 3, and there's all kinds of gold stuck in this miners, this hog moss, and right behind this reverse ramp. I can see gold just packed into this hog moss down here. That's pretty cool. My gut feeling tells me that I was running this mat really hot, and I was running it probably about 8.5 degrees, and normally I'll be 7.5, 8 degrees on this thing. So like I said, this super fine gold, there's a good chance I should see a lot of losses in here. Again, if I'm 97 or above, running, how many tons an hour is that? I'll have to figure that out, but that's a pretty good run. We'll take a look at it and see what happens. Anyways, we sat here and figured it out, but we were running probably at about in between 3 and 4 tons an hour is the pace that we were putting this machine through. So again, a ton of material here is roughly 42 buckets, and that's a lot of buckets to run through. So that's fast. Again, this dirt, and let me express my point. This dirt, no matter what you do to it, if you're running dirt that's not seeded, it's only going to hold, let's say it holds $10 per ton of gold. You can't increase that amount. You're not going to get more gold into that dirt. So the idea is if you have a recovery system that's running, let's say above 97, let's say you get 97, 98, 99, whatever it is, and you can move a lot more dirt, that's how you get more gold. It's just simple mining math. If you want to get more gold, you got to be able to move more dirt, and that's really the whole concept behind our products. Be able to move a lot of dirt fastly at a real good recovery rate. Okay, I just wanted to show you this too, but they're taking this mat out. I said, well, why not shoot it? But all they do is they just release it from up here, and then because it's tapering outward, it comes out real easy. So all he's going to do is just pull and roll, pull and roll. Has a bucket under here. Just rolls it up and now he's just going to rinse out the header tray section in here. Go way up there, splash it way up. That's good enough. All right, let's set that aside for a minute. All right, now let's get now we gotta go through. This is just about full, and reach your hand down in there and tell me how. a quarter. Okay, so this one's about full. We got to go run all this stuff through the gold cube. We got to screen it and run it. So that's the next step. All right, so this is funny out here. This is what we got set up. Now this is what we're working the tailings on. We got a whole tub over here, and we got about a half tub over here of tailings that we ran. So they're over here. Let me show you exactly what they're doing. Get ready for the gold cube. One person is scooping it, the next person is dumping it in, and the next person is washing it, and they're washing it down, and then they're cleaning it. So again, what we're doing is they're sitting there prepping all that stuff for the gold cube, and we're going to run 100% of the tailings to the gold cube. Again, I want to see losses. That's what I want to see, but I want to see measured losses. I'm looking for a 97% run rate at 3 to 4 tons an hour in heavy clay, heavy gemstone. That's my goal. My goal is to be 97% or above on this stuff. All right, so here we are. We're running the gold cube, and I've taken my level. I've leveled it off. I also, just so you know, one way you can run the cube is if you got a pump, just put a piece of rubber down, and that way you don't get any of that gravel into your pump. But we're just running it here, nice and slow. Everything is set up perfect. And we're going to run all this material, 100% of our tailings screened to 1/8 of an inch. Okay guys, you're in the bucket with me. But I wanted to show you now, this is the total amount of cons right here. It's about a gallon from, that's about all you'll ever have from this monster hog. But I want you to see something. Look at that right there. Look at all this gold. I'm telling you, there's a ton of gold in here. So there's a bunch of gold in here, and then I don't know if you can see it, but there's just gold all in here, like right there. This thing is just full of gold. So I'm assuming I'm probably close to ½ an ounce in here. Now remember, we've removed those 3 large nuggets out of here. We're done with those. But they were right in that little helper box. But you can see the pyrite. Look. I mean, look at the pyrite. The iron pyrite is just going to be loaded in here. I've got topaz, garnets, rubies. I've got all kinds of stuff in here. So those are the cons from the mat from ½ a ton. And really, that's about all you'll ever have. And we're going to take these, we're going to put them in this bucket, we're going to seal them up, we're going to take them back to the lab. We're not going to work them at all here. I don't want to do it under field conditions. I want to do it under control conditions. He's getting down. He's still running the gold cube over here. And we're running all those tailings through the gold cube. And I am going to test that while I'm here. I am going to test that. So one thing I am going to do is I am going to test, just hand pan some of those tailings of the gold cube just to see, because I don't want to wait. I want to see. I'm interested to see. But again, I'm going to keep them all together, take them back to the lab, and we're going to do an analysis of those back at the lab too. And I've got actually a separate container that will put all those super cons from the gold cube into another container. Okay guys, so man, this is a butt whipper. So anyway, so what we've done is we've run all the tailings through the gold cube after screening them to 1/8 of an inch. 100% of the tailings on that run. I've got them in here, and again, we've got about 2.5 cups of super concentrates. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to pan this out. I'm going to test pan just because I'm so curious. I want to see, but I'm going to test pan those super cons, and then I'm going to take 100% of them back to the lab again. I'm just doing a quick test, so that's all I'm doing. So again, I'm not discarding any of these cons from the gold cube. Let's get that clear. I'm going all into this pan, and I'm just going to do a quick test pan to see. Okay, so what I've done is I took all the super concentrates out of that gold cube. I've panned them down just real quick just to see, but I should have, if there's losses in here, the majority of them should be in this pan. So what I'm doing now is I'm just doing my little shaker table method. And so here's what I want you to see. So I've run over 50,000 pieces of gold through here, probably close to ½ an ounce. And now here are my tailings that I've panned down. And you can see I've got I gotta get it in the shade, sorry. Okay, but you can see, you can probably see here, I've got some 100s, I've got several 100s that are in here. So I've got a fair amount of 100s that are in here, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to measure the losses, of course. But for me, as of right now, seeing all that gold, I don't know if you can see them in here. There's one larger flat piece. All right, so here's my guess. My guess is there's probably 200 or 300 pieces of gold in my tailings. And someone's going to say, 200 or 300 pieces of gold in your tailings? Keep it in perspective. Perspective is 50,000 pieces of gold went through this in 8 minutes. Half a ton of material, heavy, heavy clay, heavy garnets, tons of black sand. And if that's the case, if I have only 200 or 300 pieces of gold in here, then I'm above a 98%, approaching a 99%. That's phenomenal. So that's what I want to see. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next step of this. Hey guys, it's Doc, and we're back from our trip. And real quickly, I'm going to show you how we're doing this. On the tailings material and those concentrates that we ran through the gold cube, we're not going to process that material anymore. In other words, I'm not going to involve another machine with it. And what we're doing is we're painstakingly, we're taking 1 teaspoonful at a time. I've got about 2 cups of concentrates from that gold cube. And we're taking 1 teaspoonful at a time. And we have a tub full with a lot of jet dry in it and water. And I'm a pretty good panner, but I'm taking this 1 panful and we're going through several stages. In other words, I'm not just taking gold out, I'm taking corners of concentrated gold and fines. And what I'm concentrating on is everything that's visible through my eye, which I can see down to 150, pretty much good. 200, you start to get into the stuff that you really can't see. So we're doing this real painstakingly, taking our time with it. I've already been doing this an hour. Now understand, that's 2 cups of concentrates, and I've been out here for an hour panning that. I do not want to involve another machine in this process. So we're sitting here and panning it teaspoon by teaspoonful. I'm going to show you real quick what I'm doing. These are the concentrates. We have a clean container that we bought to put them in. And what we're doing is we're taking a little teaspoonful at a time, very carefully. I'm not screening this, I'm not classifying this. And what I'm doing is I'm putting water in the pan and I'm putting jet dry in. There's already jet dry in this tub. I'm putting some more jet dry in with every panful. And what we're doing is we're carefully walking this stuff down. And what we're doing is barely taking lights off the top. We're barely taking lights off the top. And we're just working this stuff so carefully. But what I am doing now is I'm going to concentrate every bit of gold down in this corner over here. And the funny thing is I can't really tap this stuff that well. So I'm taking out this whole corner. I'm going in and taking out this whole corner. I'm going to do this one kind of quick, but I'll redo it. Again, I'm not trying to pan it down perfectly. And I'm going to pan it down and pan it down. I'm not going to sit here and make you watch this painstaking process. But I just want to give you an idea of how careful we're being with this. Then, all right, I'm going to stop it there for a minute. Then what we're doing is after we get to that point, then we're coming in and what we're doing is we're actually washing down and we're going back and picking out any single little flakes that we see. And there's extremely fine black sand in here. And so what we're doing is we're going in and carefully going through and we'll see 100s, we'll see all the little fine gold in here, and we'll go back in and we'll pick this out individually, the small pieces. And that's why, like I said, This is about an hour-and-a-half project for 2 cups of concentrates because the gold is so fine in here. So I'm going through and just gently just bringing it down with lots of it. And I'll see a piece over here, I'll see a piece over here, and we'll go in and one by one we'll actually pick out these pieces. Again, I don't want to rely on any other machine to further bring this down. Every single bit of this is being hand tested by pan, visually inspected, every single drop of it. Because I want to get every single drop out of this, every single piece. Now, am I going to get out the 300s and 400s? Probably not. That's really not what I'm here to do. I'm here to look at stuff, very fine gold, mainly in the 150 to 200 class. But I will get some of that fine stuff, that 300 and 400 stuff. And I'm going to find you a piece of gold. So let's say right here. Right there you can see 2 little pieces of gold. And so what we're doing is we're going in here and we're sucking out each individual piece out of this super fine black sand. But it's just super, super fine. And we're going through slowly, slowly, slowly. And then we'll rework it and we're re-panning it. We're doing it several times. So we want to get all the gold out of here. But you can see there's a couple pieces right there. Well, maybe you can't see them. They're so hard to see. It's tiny stuff. But that's what we're doing. We're going through here and we're panning this stuff twice, pulling out every single piece of gold. Now on the other stuff, on the other concentrates, on the ones that came out of our mat, I'm not going to be as picky. I'm going to get most of the gold out of it because it's sort of a known. But the one variable that will really impact this is I already know the approximate count of gold. I can't go through and count 50,000 pieces of gold. I'm not going to do that. But I can do it. I need to get an accurate piece count on my tailings losses and an accurate weight count. So those are the 2 things I have to do. The important part about this test is accuracy on my tailings test. I have to make certain assumptions on what is in the mat, and we've calculated that out the best we could, so we're going through. Hey guys, what I'm going to show you real quick is I'm going to show you what we're doing on the concentrates from the actual mat. But I wanted you to see this. This is here's the concentrate total from that run, and I put the first scoop in, but I want to just show you this. This is what we're having to deal with. This is a topaz. This is pyrite. This is from those cons from up in northern Canada. This gray rock is that sort of hematite, real heavy rock, and a lot of this was caught. A lot of that rock was actually caught behind the reverse ramp in the very, very beginning of it. But I'm getting ready, I'm screening this to 1/8 so I can run it through the gold cube. But I mean, there's a ruby or sapphire, one of the 2. There's another one in here. There's actually a larger one. But I wanted to show you some of what we're dealing with. There's garnets. I mean, this is a piece of garnet right there. That's a garnet. And there's tons of these little teeny ones in here too. But there's actually this little ruby in here. Oh, here it is. Is that it? Same one. But all kinds of gems. There's amethyst. There's everything in here. But I did see, let's see if it got through. Look at that garnet. I thought I saw a piece of gold that wouldn't go through an 1/8 screen. Somewhere in here. I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to keep these separate and sort of pan these out separate, because there's a piece of gold in here that wouldn't fit through the screen. And there's one right there. There's a piece right there that won't fit through a 1/8 screen. So anyway, I just wanted to show you what we're having to deal with here. Okay, so I'm starting to pan this down now, but I want to give you an idea. Look at that. That's a lot of gold. Let me try and get it to focus a little better. Maybe you can get it in there now. But this is just insane how much fine gold there is. But that's the stuff. I'm going to have to take pictures of it because I can't really get it to focus right. Yeah, there's big stuff over here, but there's thousands, tens of thousands of these little fine stuff in here. But anyways, this is, you know, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with all these super fines in here. Just amazing stuff. Okay, so now that I've shown you that, I want to go, this is, we went to the frying pan. I'm going to show you the frying pan, a picture of that, and we dried all the gold and we weighed it out. I've showed you me going over and panning some of the stuff, but I want to show you what we did. Okay, so we're talking about cleanups, and let me tell you a little bit about what I did on that. Number one is I didn't take blank bottles and just assume. I actually took this bottle and weighed it, and I'm using grains on this, just so you know. But this bottle empty weighs 92.9 grains. So then I took my captured gold, removing the larger gold out of it, and it was 263.3 grains of gold. So there you go, it's 263 grains of gold. Now, the same thing on the losses. Here are my losses. On the losses, I weighed the bottle before, and the bottle was, let's see, the bottle was 94.6 grains. With the losses in it, the losses totaled 95.3. So you can sort of already get a numbers equation going there. But I wanted to show that number. I wanted to show those numbers and how we actually came to this. We're trying to be real precise with this science on this, as controlled as possible in a field condition run. So let me go over the numbers with you, and I'm probably going to let you do the math on this one. So here's the deal. So I ended up with 170.4 grains of gold, not grams, grains. So I had 170.4 grains of gold that were captured inside of our sluice system. Again, removing out, this does not count any larger gold. The losses, when I had the losses, I came out with 0.6 grains. So there, 0.6, just over half a grain in losses. So you can calculate that out. You divide 0.6 divided by 170.4. You can calculate that out yourself. Now let's go back to the piece count. And the piece count was interesting. That was actually very interesting. I thought the piece count would be a lot higher than this. But I'm estimating roughly 50,000 pieces of gold went through there. And on the 50,000, on the losses, I had just under 400 pieces of losses. And we measured that down to about 150, 200 mesh, somewhere in there. Went through and actually counted it. So I've got, it was 396 pieces in the losses, total loss count. So again, you can take that, you can take 40,000 if you want, drop it down. Let's say I was off on my counting estimates. Let's drop it down to 40,000. So if I had 40,000 pieces of gold go through there, I'm still lost the numbers on here for loss rate. I'm still at a 99%. I'm still at a 99% by piece count. And that's really what surprised me. What really shocked me, the weight really doesn't surprise me. Weight of gold is easy to catch. But what really surprised me is that piece count. I thought we'd probably be at a 96% or 97% on that piece count, but to see it at 99, that was just amazing. So again, it was a grid day testing, really good on the Monster Hog. Like I said, my goal was to make this thing lose gold and lose gold. We pushed it as hard as we could, but again, it's proven a really effective machine in the class of high production. You know, this is not a one-person machine. This is 2 or more people. But for a really high production machine that can run anywhere from 5 up to 8 tons an hour, I'm really happy with it.